Welcome to yet another tutorial on Modelur. In today's tutorial, we will cover Modelur's parameter hierarchy, which is a feature that's exclusive to Modelur. Once you understand the parameter hierarchy, it will simplify your urban design process, which will help you finish your projects faster. Let's begin by taking a look at this image on the hierarchy of parameters. For the sake of example, it is simplified as it shows just two types of parameters, which is the use, such as residential, and the second type are the number of floors. However, the concept is the same for all parameters. We call it the parameters hierarchy because every parameter can be set at different levels. The hierarchy works using a bottom-up approach, which means that the parameters that are set on the bottom of the hierarchy, which are, in our case, buildings, overrides the parameters that are set by higher levels in the hierarchy, which are firstly city blocks. And then the whole plot, which is the highest level in the hierarchy. The forward slashes in the picture represents parameters that are not set at that level, thus they inherit parameters from above. All parameters set at the whole plot level will become the default parameters, which will apply to the whole model, such as the city blocks and buildings. Below the whole plot is the city block level, where parameters set here will overwrite the parameters set by the whole plot, and it will change all buildings that are located on it. The bottom level are buildings, where the parameters set at the building level will only apply to the specific building. If you create a default building, it will use the default parameters set by the whole plot parameters. However, if you move that building onto a city block, then that building will ignore the whole plot parameters and inherit the city block parameters. In other words, city block parameters will take precedence over the whole plot parameters, but if we move the building off of the city block, it will use the parameters of the whole plot. However, if we set parameters on the building level, the parameters will not change, as parameters on the building level take priority over parameters set on city blocks and whole plots. The parameters set for city blocks or buildings that override the default whole plot parameters are called overloaded parameters. For the sake of simplicity, complex buildings were left out. They follow the same concept, and in the parameters hierarchy, they belong between buildings and city block. Now let's see how these parameters work in SketchUp. Here we have three city blocks. The first two are yellow, meaning that they are designated for residential use, while the third one is red, which is for office use. The office city block is the only city block that has its use parameter locked. The locked parameters are displayed in black text, while the unlocked in gray. If we unlock this parameter with the unlock icon, it becomes a residential city block, as it automatically takes the default use, which is currently residential, and can be seen on the whole plot tab. Now, none of the city blocks have their use parameter locked. This means that if we were to change the default use in whole plot to another, such as healthcare, all of the city blocks will automatically change to healthcare. Or if we change the default use to hotel, then the use becomes hotel. Let's change the use of first city block to residential and the second to office. We will also change the floor parameters of the first two city blocks, residential to 4 and office to 8. Now we will create a default building. Since the default building uses the parameters in whole plot, the default use was used, which is hotel. Now using the Move tool, let's move this building to the residential city block. As you can see, the building automatically inherited both of the city block's use and floor parameters. If we move it to the second city block, it will inherit that city block's parameters. If we move it to the third city block, which has no set parameters for the number of floors, the building will inherit the number of floors which is set in the whole plot tab. Now using the building tab, let's change the parameters of the building. Let's choose 7 floors and designate the building to healthcare use. We've now locked these parameters for the building, and the building will stay the same if we move it around all 3 city blocks. Notice that the building's built area parameter is not locked. Now if we change and lock the built area of a city block, let's say to 500 meters squared, and we move the building to this city block. Then as you can see, the floor area was changed too. We could do the same for the floor height parameters. Notice that the building height did change even if we locked the building height parameters in the building tab. This had to be done to accommodate the new change in the floor height while keeping the same number of floors. If you want a building to truly not change any parameters, no matter the city block, You need to lock all of the parameters. Thank you for watching this tutorial episode on Modelur. Please visit our official website and YouTube channel for more tutorials.